Okay, Tottenham Hotspur have done it, Andy. Congratulations to our resident Spurs expert and fan. They've won a trophy. First time in over 17 years. First of all, we'll talk a lot more about Ange Postecoglou, his future, what this means for Spurs. But Andy, let's start with you, my friend. Take it away. What does this mean to you to see your team win a trophy and do it in sort of an unexpected way, considering how the season was panning out?
Yeah, the most Spurs way possible, right? I think that would be the way to put it. Make us suffer through 17th place in the Premier League all season. It's been miserable. Nobody's having fun week in and week out. You kind of don't want them to play every time they have a game, but you sit down and you watch it anyway, and you know what's going to happen, and it happens. But then all along, there's this kind of parallel season running along, and they just keep progressing. They're not playing well still, but yeah, it is. I never thought I'd see it happen. Honestly, I didn't. We watch every competition in the league every single year, and there's always a celebration and a trophy lift, and the players look really happy at the end of it. And I didn't realize how fun that part was. It just felt like, well, of course they do that. You have to end it somehow. You have to celebrate something. I never actually thought that it would be Spurs in that situation. And so to finally see that and to see the way that they did it as well, the team coming together behind the manager and everybody just banding together through the injuries this season and the injuries going into the final and winning one of the ugliest games that I've ever seen in my life. Those games don't go Spurs' way ever. And this one finally did.
It really did. It really did. And it was wonderful, I think, Nick, to see Ange Postecoglou with a huge smile on his face at the end, celebrating with his family, celebrating with the Spurs fans, the players, just because of everything that he's been through and been sort of the lightning rod for criticism for Spurs' injury problems, the style of play, how he's really stood up against most of it and, hit back a lot of the time at the critics and trying to explain what he was achieving. And, last night I said it pretty simply, right? Like, this was the competition since we went out in the League Cup. Everything's been focused on this, with it being rotation of players, training, everything. The Premier League finish is not great where they are on the table, but this was everything to him. And I mean, I guess just a special word on him being a bit more pragmatic in that final. And kind of, for me, going forward, if he does remain at Spurs, which we'll talk about very shortly, that's a key feature of this last few months against Eintracht Frankfurt, away at Bodo Glimt in the final, how he's managed to kind of dispel that myth that all he does is go all out attack and he's got no plan B, etc. When, to me, simply, he didn't have his best defense for most of the season, and that's the reason why they struggled along for a lot of this. But take it away. I know you got a lot of time for Ange.
Yeah, I do. And I wonder, I don't know if this crystallizes anything for a lot of people, because I'm not sure what this moment should mean out of or in context, because it's hard to be in context. It was awesome. And he has gone through a lot. The team has gone through a lot. And the way that affects you mentally when you're going through such a difficult time with the injuries and all that, his public face wasn't great, but you can tell the guys are still behind him. And it was such a cool moment. And I couldn't help but think of the confidence he would have had after leaving Celtic as a monstrously successful manager, coming here and knowing he's going to have access to a different breed of player. And you start to look back, to take this a little bit to Andy, but in the context of Ange, you think about all those moments you've seen with Heung-min Son. You think about the kind of goofy Sissoko handball in the Champions League final. Even going back to Clint Dempsey in some of the moments that when you're watching him and you realize what it means to a fan base. And while I detest the word drought, try 56 years, I do think that it was a moment for both the manager, the players, and the fans, much like Palace, much like Newcastle, much like Liverpool a couple years ago, that will resonate with me for some time.
Absolutely. And I think, Andy, the next question, and Ange has been asked it himself after the Europa League final win, is, are you going to stick around? Is this a mic drop moment? Do you want to carry on with this project now that Spurs are in the Champions League next season? We all know the money that will bring, the potential level of players that could bring in. And his answer was pretty clear and really crystal clear, actually, in terms of, I think there's still work to do here. We can still achieve a lot. This is a young group, and I think this will, this win will give them confidence and belief they can go on and do more. So, all right, do you think Spurs should stick with him? What's your feeling? Because even though they've won the trophy and he's delivered in his second season, like he said he would, there still seems like the Spurs fan base is probably, 60-40, like, all right, thanks, Ange, appreciate it, but it's probably time to move on.
I would say it's probably more than 60 would like to still have him now. And I think that's a huge jump, by the way, from pre-final. And I think a lot of it is because Spurs fans didn't expect to win it. And so the expectation was that we're going to lose it anyway. Let's get rid of this guy and get someone in who knows what he's doing and everything like that. But I think that was Ange's biggest point after the game yesterday was, winning a trophy is great, but what that does for you then is he hopes changes the way that the club sees itself going forward, and not being so negative, not expecting the worst thing to always happen to Spurs, because it usually does happen to Spurs. But at this point, to get that monkey off the back and have the belief that it can be done, he has brought back the belief to the club and a little bit of confidence as well. Maybe that, and to answer your actual question, should he stay, should he go, maybe that is the greatest outcome of his tenure as Spurs manager, is turning that around. Maybe that was the job that he really was needed to come in and do. Because I still have a lot of questions about the tactics and the fit and the level of the Premier League and the way that he wants to play. Can it work at that level? I really don't know. The best success we've seen from this team, aside from the first 10 games of his first season, has been when he's gone super pragmatic. And I don't think he will or should try to play that way through 38 games of the Premier League next year. And so all of that to say, I don't know. I truly don't know. I'm glad I don't have to decide. I hope Daniel Levy has a pretty good idea of what he wants to do going forward. But Ange deserves all the credit in the world, and I'll just give him a second here. He put his neck on the line for the club, for the team. He took everything. He was the human shield, the blocker for the team. All season long, as bad as it's been, you've not heard any of the players getting dug out by anyone, the fans, by the media. It has all been about Ange, and he has taken it all. He positioned himself to be the one to take that, and that is, I think, why so many of the players are still on side with him, and why after the game, every single player in the squad on social media posted the video of, I don't usually win trophies in my second season. I always win trophies in my second season. And really just a nod to what he's done this season as a manager. It's been absolutely brilliant.
It really has been brilliant. And Nick, I mean, were you of the same opinion as Andy? Like, let's wait and see what happens, or do you have a strong feeling on whether he should stay or whether he should get to make that decision?
If he wants to be there, especially now seeing that the players have his back, he absolutely should stay. And this is why. The players who are performing for him and are young, I want that consistency for Sarr, who's 22. I want that consistency for Bergvall, who's 19. Kulusevski, 25, is a little bit older. But, I mean, this is just a team. Go to Gray and the faith that he showed in that 19-year-old. Udogie, I believe, is pretty young. Spence, Van de Ven, 24, not in his center back prime. The players are behind him. The players are young. You want next season to start well, your best chance is sticking with this guy.
Yeah, you would hope that injuries are never going to be as bad as it has been this season for Spurs. So that's part of it. I think the playing style will have to tweak, and I think there has to be some kind of compromise in terms of, we have seen, like Andy mentioned, the better results at the start of the season and towards the end were because he did compromise on his tactics in key moments. So you'd hope that he grew as a coach as well and learned maybe a little bit more about what you can and can't do week in, week out in the Premier League to get you through a season. So I'd love to see him stay, but let's wait and see. I mean, there are other candidates out there if Spurs want to go in a different direction totally, with Iraola, someone like this, a totally different style of play, a bit more solid and durable for the course of a Premier League season. But again, you can't take away from what Ange has achieved, what he's given to every single Spurs fan across the world. And it certainly was lovely to see him celebrate with that trophy and get that moment of vindication, if you will. And I think Tottenham Hotspur fans all over the world deserve to be happy and have this trophy, given everything that's been chucked at them over the years. And I'm excited to see the project develop, it with or without Ange, some of the good young players they have, the money they now have to spend in the Champions League. And maybe they can just see this season as a bit of a blip in the longer journey to where they want to be, winning trophies consistently. So head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest news on Ange's future at Spurs. Will he stay? Will he go? At the moment, it doesn't really matter. I'm pretty sure he's planning to be on a beach somewhere, sipping beer or champagne or whatever out of that big UEFA Cup Europa League trophy. And he deserves it. If anybody deserves it, Ange does.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lowe, and as we head towards the end of an exciting Premier League season, make sure you like and subscribe on the NBC Sports YouTube channel for more content like this.